What's up, my comic comrades? Most of you are familiar with our History of episodes, but today we're doing something a bit different. We've partnered with Marvel Contest of Champions to bring you the origin and history of the brand new original Marvel character and Contest of Champions villain, Purgatory. There have been several original Marvel characters created for the Battle Realm within the 517 universe, each with their own unique backstory and mythology that ties back into the contest. Some of which have also crossed over into the pages of Marvel Comics. That crossover aspect is actually one of the most fun elements of the game. Anyway, today we're going to highlight Purgatory's story, and along the way, we're going to look at several other original Marvel characters created for the game, as their stories intertwine with Purgatory's. We also want to thank Marvel Contest of Champions for sponsoring today's episode. Now, while Marvel Contest of Champions is the longest running and most popular Marvel fighting game, we realize that some of you might be unfamiliar with the game. Well, Marvel Contest of Champions puts you right in the middle of a world called Battle Realm, which is controlled by the Elder of the Universe known as the Collector. Under the Collector's command, you act as a summoner for his brutal contest of champions, assembling your own team of Marvel heroes and villains in order to battle your way to the top as the ultimate Marvel champion. The game features over 200 of Marvel's most iconic and powerful heroes and villains, including members of the Avengers and X-Men, as well as dope original characters like Purgatory, Civil Warrior, and Aegon. And as you build and upgrade your roster, you work your way through challenging quests that unfold the game's awesome episodic storyline, which holds true to classic Marvel storytelling. You could also link up with friends in the game to create or join an alliance, battle other summoners in the arena, and compete against the top players to become the ultimate champion. The monthly challenges and content updates constantly keep things interesting, and as you might expect, when you join MCoC, you'll become part of an active community of millions of players from around the world. It's just a lot of fun, especially if you're a Marvel fan like we are. So click our link in the description of this video to download Marvel Contest of Champions now. And if you do so before July 7th, you'll receive Purgatory for free. Again, just click the link below. But now that we got you up to speed, let's dive into the history of MCoC and its ruthless new champion, Purgatory. Purgatory is the latest in a line of awesome new Marvel characters conceived by Gabriel Frazera and other creatives at Kabam, and introduced into Contest of Champions. Her backstory and the ancient depth it gives the Bloodline sword is pretty dope. But first, let's take a look at the Contest of Champions itself, as it has a deep and important history in Marvel Comics. The Contest of Champions was first created in 1982 for a 3-issue miniseries written by Mark Gruenwald with art by John Romita Jr. and Bob Layton. It was an important title for Marvel right out of the gate because it was the first limited series they had ever published, and it introduced the concept of major universe-altering crossover events for Marvel. Something that would of course set the stage for other massive events like Secret Wars, the Infinity Saga, House of M, Civil War, and so on. In the 3-issue limited series, we see the Grandmaster, who's the Elder of the Universe, challenge Lady Death to a Battle Royale contest, using superheroes from Earth as their enslaved champions, with the prize being the life of Grandmaster's fellow Elder, the Collector, who had been killed by Korvac in the Avengers title and is now under Lady Death's domain. After agreeing to the terms, the story shows the Grandmaster assemble a team roster that included Captain America, Wolverine, Daredevil, The Thing, She-Hulk, Talisman, Captain Britain, Darkstar, and others. While Lady Death's team was comprised of Iron Man, Storm, Black Panther, Iron Fist, Sunfire, Shamrock, Angel, Vanguard, and a few others. All of them battling it out with the goal of the game being to collect all 4 pieces of the Golden Globe of Life. The team to do so won the game. The Contest of Champions concept would then go on to inspire similar contests within the pages of Marvel Comics, most notably being the 1984 Secret Wars event written by Marvel legend Jim Shooter. In Marvel Comics Secret Wars, we see a cosmic entity known as the Beyonder who is fascinated by superheroes of Earth, summon groups of superheroes and supervillains against their will to a planet he created called Battle World. The Beyonder then provides the heroes and villains with a slew of high-tech weapons and basically tells them that they are to fight to the death, promising to reward the winner with all their heart desires. The Secret Wars story was widely popular amongst Marvel fans and of course had major impact on the Marvel universe as a whole. It also went on to spur several sequels, and most importantly for today's purposes, directly influenced the storyline of the Marvel Contest of Champions game, which was released in 2014. And as I said earlier, Marvel went on to publish the Contest of Champions comic series in 2015 and 2016, which takes place in the main 616 universe, and continued to build on the MCoC mythos. In the 10-issue title, we see Maestro as the main villain, and we are introduced to several new original characters like Guillotine, a French heroine with a powerful mystical sword. And that, my friends, brings us back to Purgatory, because Guillotine is the sworn enemy of another original character known as Morningstar, and her newly introduced alternate version, Purgatory. So let's get into the character's origin and find out why. Purgatory made her debut in Marvel Contest of Champions on June 10th. But who is she? Where did she come from? Well, as I mentioned, she is actually an alternate version of another well-known MCoC villain named Morningstar. So before we give you Purgatory's origin, it's important to lay out the foundation with the original take on the character in order to properly bring it all together. Morningstar first appeared in October 2017 and was created to be the nemesis of Contest of Champions heroine Guillotine, with the heart of their feud centered around the mystical demon sword known as the Bloodline. Morningstar was originally a tyrannical witch queen of Longoria named Hassan, who took possession of the Bloodline sword during her reign in the 10th century and bent it to her will by encasing it with the magical infused alloy. She then used the mystical powers of the sword to torment and subjugate her own people. But in 999 AD, her subjects revolted, storming her castle, taking the Bloodline sword, and stripping her of her power. Eventually, as punishment for her crimes, the people locked Hassan in one of the cursed Iron Maiden-like torture devices she had used on them. And there she would remain for nearly 1,000 years until she was found and freed by the evil demon, Mephisto, who promised to help her walk again and give her the tools she would need to get revenge. But as a professional liar, Mephisto was never to be trusted. And when Hassan accepted his offer, she quickly realized that it was not the freedom she was promised. Instead of being freed from the Iron Maiden she had been trapped in for a millennia, the sarcophagus was magically converted into a mystical hellfire-infused armor, transforming Hassan into the powerful demonic villain, Morningstar. And true to her name, she wields a massive and deadly medieval Morningstar as her primary weapon, which grows in power as it steals the souls of her opponents. That's cheating, right? It has to be some form of cheating. Anyway, fueled by rage and the thirst for revenge, Morningstar returned to Earth in search of the sword that had granted her great power when she wielded it as queen, only for her to find that the sword had been reforged by an order of French monks in 1478 and renamed La Fleur du Mal. She also found out that the sword was now in the possession of the French hero Guillotine, who had sworn to never allow it to fall into the wrong hands ever again. This is another important moment for Morningstar, as it's where her story ties in with Guillotine, which deepened Guillotine's backstory, who had already been an established character in the MCoC universe. But we'll dive a bit more into Guillotine when we get to the Enemies of Purgatory section of the episode. Anyway, the revelation of the Bloodline sword's evolution and its new wielder led Morningstar to enter the Contest of Champions herself, in order to destroy Guillotine and reclaim the sword and its power. However, she's been unable to do so. And that, my comic comrades, brings us to the new alternate reality version of Morningstar, Purgatory. To put it simply, she is something of a what-if type character. Purgatory is the Morningstar from Earth 6696, and in this alternate reality, she finally defeats Guillotine in battle and is reunited with Bloodline. But after the bloodthirsty sentient weapon realizes it was back in the hands of the evil Witch Queen, it convinces Morningstar to kill Guillotine in cold blood, after which Queen Hassan goes on a bloody murder spree unlike anything seen in 1,000 years. With both the sword and Morningstar fed by the blood of their victims, each began to transform, with Hassan finally breaking free of her armored prison and the demon sword shedding the mystical iron that contained its full demonic powers, returning to its original shape, which is something like a fiery spine-like whip. Now reborn as Purgatory, Hassan and the sword had developed a symbiotic relationship where the more she uses the sword in its raw original state, the more she becomes a demon herself, as the blade absorbs the soul energy of every life it takes and passes it on to Purgatory. Come on, that's just kind of messed up. And now the 517 Guillotine that still exists in the battle realm is about to come face to face with the bloodthirsty beast that Morningstar has become, as Purgatory is summoned from her alternate reality into the Contest of Champions, forcing Guillotine to confront a true embodiment of the relentless evil that was contained in the blade, an evil she worked hard to contain. But with that, let's take a look at Purgatory's powers and abilities. With Purgatory being a mystic and alternate reality version of Morningstar, she possesses a broad range of powers, but much of it is derived from her symbiotic relationship with the demonic Bloodline sword. So why is this sword so powerful and what makes it so evil? Well, thankfully, we are also given the ancient origin of the sword, along with the reveal of Purgatory in the MCoC motion comic titled Bloodlines. According to legend, during the first age of humanity, when men, gods, and beasts coexisted, a wicked king stole the key to the underworld from the Sumerian goddess of the dead, Ereshkigal, and he wouldn't return it unless the goddess forged him a mystical bloodthirsty blade that would enable him to slay all of his enemies. So Ereshkigal shackled the demon Pazuzu and forged the weapon from his flesh. As the story tells it, the demon's spine became the anvil and the goddess's hand the hammer. Her soul became the ore, and his pain, the fire. That's some dark stuff right there. Anyway, the goddess brought the newly formed blade to the king, but as soon as he wielded it, he realized he had been fooled, as the bloodline drained every last drop of his life force, killing him. But the demonic sword's hunger for human blood and souls was insatiable, and for centuries it searched for a host strong enough to wield it so it could fulfill its darkest purposes. Over time, many ancient warlords attempted to reforge and convert the bloodline into a human weapon of war, all of them failed. Many heroes and kings tried to tame the demon within the blade, but all of them found themselves yielding to its power. That is until it found its way to Hassan, the Witch Queen of Longoria, in 974 AD, who forges a new blade around the sword's true form, using the previously mentioned magic-infused alloy. And while she believed that it was she who was finally able to control and wield the sword, it was really the demon within the sword who had finally found the perfect host to do its bidding. And now, after killing Guillotine and being reunited with the bloodline, returning the sword to its raw form, Purgatory wields a list of devastating powers, some of which include her incredible set of class soul abilities. This allows her to increasingly drain her opponent's soul with every strike attack she lands, gradually weakening her enemy while feeding the bloodthirst of the sword, which of course increases her strength. As her bloodthirst level builds, she has the ability to enter a demonic rampage state where she can destroy an opponent through a barrage of special attacks and incinerates. The way she wields the sword itself is just insane. It acts like a fire-infused whip and impaling spear. It's largely fluid with the capability to even change its shape. Purgatory also has several special attack moves and finishes, including Spiral Punishment, Stinging Souls, and her signature ability called Eternal Damnation, which sounds like a rough way to go. Altogether, Purgatory is a brutal and awesome new character addition to the Marvel Universe, and a formidable new fighter in the Contest of Champions. Very quickly, we want to give you a bit more detail on Purgatory's arch-nemesis Guillotine, who of course is also the nemesis of Morningstar and the hero in this conflict. Guillotine is the latest in a fearsome lineage of warriors to inherit La Fleur du Mal. Guided by mystic energy, the Guillotine bloodline has been responsible for containing the bloodline's power for centuries. The latest Guillotine is a young woman of French-Algerian descent named Janine Sauvage, who took up the mantle at 12 years old after she heard a whispered voice coming from a room in her house that her father typically kept locked. Janine crept into the room out of curiosity, where she discovered the sword in a box and accidentally cut her hand on the blade, sealing her fate as the next Guillotine. Since taking possession of the sword, Guillotine uses the blade to punish the guilty while keeping the evil instincts of the bloodline in check. In fact, Contest of Champions creative director Gabriel Frazera, while fleshing out Guillotine's backstory, even sketched out this piece of never-before-seen concept art of what Guillotine's civilian secret identity might look like. So we're very curious to see where they'll take Guillotine in the future. In 2019, we were also introduced to Guillotine 2099, where the real Guillotine used La Fleur du Mal to transfer the soul of Queen Hassan into a robotic warrior created by the futuristic Alchemax Corporation, making Guillotine 2099 a self-aware being in hopes of stopping Alchemax from fulfilling their plans to merge their tech with the power of the Bloodline Sword, creating a weapon capable of digitizing human souls. So while Guillotine 2099 isn't an enemy of Purgatory in the same way as the original Guillotine, it's a very cool hybrid of Hassan and the Guillotine mantle. But now it's time for some reading recommendations. With Purgatory being a brand new character, there isn't much to recommend just yet, but you should definitely check out the MCoC Motion Comics Bloodlines, Guillotine Future Prometheus, and Blades. You also want to read the 2015 10-issue Marvel Contest of Champions comic series written by Al Ewing. We'll put links for those in the description, and while you're there, subscribe to the MCoC channel to keep up with the continued story as it rolls out. Most of all, though, you want to click our link in the description to download Marvel Contest of Champions and get Purgatory for free so you can start playing through her story for yourself. That's where you'll find most of the good stuff, so jump on it. But with that said, we want to know what you think about Purgatory, her story, and the origin of the Bloodline Sword. Let us know in the comment section. We also want to thank Marvel Contest of Champions and the team over at Kabam for partnering with us on this episode. We had a blast learning more about the Marvel Contest of Champions universe and look forward to doing more episodes on its stories and characters. And that's going to bring another episode of Variant to a close, but if you like today's video, be sure to check out this one right here. And if you like all of our content, be sure to subscribe, like, and comment. It always helps us out. But other than that, I'll see you guys next time when I talk about all things comics.